Okay, I have good standing with Pharaoh. Let's keep a good standing. Let's keep peaceable relations, and we'll be taken care of through this famine. Okay, because there were still 2 years remaining on it. So any questions about that? Good. That means I'm teaching well, right? All right, let's look at chapter 47, and I will read the first 12 verses. Now, one more thing about this. Whereas in the earlier chapters of Genesis, there was a lot of pauses and digging because there was so much within the beginning, like things that are echoed throughout the Bible that maybe you didn't understand. So it was worthy of a dig to seek out a treasure that's been hidden, if you will. And, you know, there was a lot where it was like, man, I didn't even realize that that's what that was talking about. But later in these last chapters, it's mostly focusing on God keeps His promises. From Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to Joseph, He has kept His promises. And He has orchestrated things to work out in His will the way that He wanted it so that Israel would become a nation, fulfilling a covenant He made with Abraham. Even when Joseph got thrown in the pit, that was all part of God's plan. He knew what He was doing. He knew the famine was coming. He knew all these things. But it's a pretty straightforward drama. It's a straightforward story. When you read it in the Bible, it's pretty easy to understand. There's no like hidden things in there or, you know, misunderstandings or changing of words. It's pretty straightforward. And so tonight, with the Lord's blessing, we'll get through 2 chapters of this, and we'll be able to hopefully kind of take it from the scene of being in the same room with Joseph and the Pharaoh or his father and kind of, you know, get an understanding of what was really going on then. All right. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, "My father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan. And behold, they are in the land of Goshen." And he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, "What is your occupation?" And they said unto Pharaoh, "Thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers." They said moreover unto Pharaoh, "For to sojourn in the land are we come. For thy servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. Now therefore, we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen." And Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, "Thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before thee. In the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell. And if thou knowest any men of activity among them, then make them rulers over my cattle." And Joseph brought in Jacob, his father, and set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, "How old art thou?" And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, "The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers and the days of their pilgrimage." And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph placed his father and his brethren and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, and Pharaoh, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren and all his father's household with bread according to their families. So they've arrived. Joseph goes to Pharaoh and he's like, "Hey, I'm bringing 5 brothers with me and my father. We're going to come and I'm going to introduce you to Pharaoh, the guy that I work for, the ruler of the land." And so they come forward and Pharaoh's like, "All right, you know, are they here?" And he goes, "Yeah, they're here. And I placed them here and I brought some brothers with me, and I brought them here to meet you." When Pharaoh's asked, what do y'all do? What's your occupation? Now, what were they not supposed to say? We're shepherds. They were supposed to say, hey, we're cattle herders, right? Right, but Joseph said, don't say you're sheep herders, because they consider that like an abomination. It's kind of like they just don't like that kind of stuff here. Sheep, they like cows, and they like herds, they like cattle. But we find that, they step up and they're like, we are sheep herders, Nothing comes of it, but it shows that was a chance for Pharaoh to be like, wait, what? Joseph, why didn't you tell me they were sheep herders? Y'all can go back. He could have done that, but he didn't. He said, well, welcome to the land. Joseph, give them the best. Give them the best land over there in the land of Ramses. Give them Goshen, because that's where the greenest grass is. That's where they need to be. And if any of your brothers or if any of them are good herders, let them look over my livestock as well. That was a huge blessing from Pharaoh to them. Now, what did God promise Abraham about people that blessed him and his family? That they would be blessed, right? Pharaoh has already witnessed how Joseph has made him very prosperous in the land. And so he's like, if I'm good to that guy, his God's good to me. And so he's going to continue that blessing, right? He's continuing that blessing. And the family, they were kind, the 5 brothers, they humbly asked, like, hey, we ask, if you don't mind, please let us have some grazing land. And he's like, of course you can. That they would have the best part. That meant they would be working directly for Pharaoh, not Joseph. They will be Pharaoh's own, because Pharaoh, when he had somebody working directly for him, they worked for him, not Joseph. Joseph oversaw everything except for the priests that worked directly for Pharaoh, or his herders or his cooks. Those belonged to Pharaoh. He managed those and made sure that they were taken care of. And then in comes Jacob, the father. He's old. He's starting to... You can get from what he said in verse 9 that he feels like the end of his life is near. He even goes so far as to say, I've not attained the years of my father and my grandfather. My time's been troublesome here on this earth. And we talked about his life from running from Esau, how he was deceptive in his practices, and his uncle Laban, all of that. He's had a hard life. Thought he had lost his son, had some rowdy boys he had to deal with, lost his wife, his favorite wife. So there was a lot going on here. But notice what he did when he came before Pharaoh. Now Pharaoh, does he worship Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh? No. Who does he worship? Who? Well, himself, yeah, but who else? Who were the Egyptian gods? Ra, Osiris, right? Isis, Horus, all those false gods. That's what they worshiped back then. And here comes Jacob. Old man, can't hardly see. May Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh bless you. He put his blessings on Pharaoh. And I mean, that was, would we do that? That's like walking up to, a Muslim guy saying, may Jesus Christ bless you and keep you. They'd be like, whoa, what? So, but Jacob, who does he trust? God. Who are his eyes on? God. And what did he say? I'm on a pilgrimage. You see, he didn't consider this earth his home. He's not an earth dweller. And that's mentioned in Revelation. It referred to some people as earth dwellers, those that were left behind, those that their residence is on the earth. But for us, we're not earth dwellers. We're not considered earth dwellers. We're just passing through. We're on a pilgrimage. And so Jacob, he really understood this. And he does it again before he leaves. After Pharaoh asks him his age, he tells him that he's 130 years old. And Pharaoh was, I guess, happy with meeting them and said, yep, give them the best land. Give them the best land. And so they went to Goshen, and it says Joseph made sure that his family was fed and that they were taken care of. So now, this is very important. The Israelites, that's what we're going to call them, have been placed on the east side of the delta of the Nile, the best land in all of Egypt. Their flocks and herds have plenty to eat, and Pharaoh's right-hand man, Joseph, is making sure they're fed. You got that, right? Just want to make sure you understand that. Okay. Let's go to verse 13. Listen to this part. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. No crops are growing. I mean, it's bad. There's no crops. But Joseph had harvested, remember, and stored it up. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought. And Joseph brought the money unto Pharaoh's house. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. Hey, if you don't have any more money, I'll take your cattle as payment. And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph. And Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses. And he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. Remember, it was in the 5th year that Jacob and his family came. So now another year goes by. The Egyptians are out of money to buy food because they've used all their money. Now they're giving all of their cattle to Joseph, who gives it to Pharaoh, right? So they did that for a year. So now you're entering the final year of famine. When that year was ended, they came unto him the 2nd year and said unto him, We will not hide it from my Lord, how that our money is spent. My Lord also hath our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my Lord, but our bodies and our lands. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread. And we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed, that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt even to the other end thereof. Only the land of the priest bought he not, for the priest had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them, wherefore they sold not their lands. Then Joseph said unto the people, Behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase that ye shall give the 5th part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own. So what's their tax rate? 20%. 20% countrywide. A 5th, right? For seed of the field and for your food, and for them of your households, and for food for your little ones. And they said, Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the 5th part, except the land of the priests only, which became not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. And the time drew nigh that Israel must die. That's Jacob. And he called his son Joseph and said unto him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. But I will lie with my fathers, and thou shalt carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in their burying place. And he said, I will do as thou hast said. And he said, Swear unto me. And he sware unto him. And Israel bowed himself upon the bed's head. A lot going on here. So, did y'all catch what's happening here? What's happening? Joseph made Pharaoh richer. How? So he got all the money the people had, right? They were buying grain from him. When they ran out of money, they started giving him the land to purchase food. That lasted for a year, or the cattle. That lasted for a year. And then they ran out of food, and then he said, give me your land. So Pharaoh now owns all the money, all the herds and cattle, livestock, and everybody's land, except for the priests that they were his own, so he didn't take their land. Now, how are the Israelites doing? They're multiplying, right? They're multiplying like rabbits. They are doing really good because God made them a promise, right? I will make thee a nation in Egypt. He's making Israel into a nation. So, how do you think that's going to go over? Let me ask you this. What if there were some foreign people that came into our land, the United States, and we pay taxes? And I don't know if y'all know how much taxes you pay, but do you really know? Like you pay a portion of your salary, what you make a year. And then you pay your property taxes, which comes out of what you've got left. And then every time you buy a candy bar, you pay taxes on that too, and gas. So, I mean, on average, I think it equates to about 40 to 50% of everything you do is going to the government. That means you're working half a month just to pay the government. And then what's left after that you can keep. I hate to put it that way to you, but now what if our money that we were given and the stuff we were doing for the government, what if the government started giving it to people that came into our country, they're not even Americans, and they started getting free stuff. They started getting medical care and yeah, so we can relate, right? Right? What happens to the American people when they see that? Who did they elect last cycle? Trump. What did he promise? Close the borders. Right? So there is compassion, even amongst Christians. There's compassion, there's love. We want to feed people. But when it starts affecting us directly, when it starts hitting our pockets, when it starts taking some of our jobs, when our medical, when the lines get longer at medical and our schools become crowded, it's kind of like, oh, hold on now. We got to. So you can see what's happening here. The Egyptians have lost everything pretty much. They're fed, they're alive, and they're thankful. Well, what about them? What are they paying? But so you can see where this is going, right? Little foreshadowing. Sometimes if you slow down, you go faster with understanding, and you can see what's going on in the Bible. But what does this say about Joseph as a businessman? His boss liked him, didn't he? He was a wise businessman, administrator. Let's see if I covered everything here. And he's getting 20% taxes. Food, cattle, herd, corn, because he provided the grain, right? So he gets a fifth. And it was like that all the way until Moses wrote this. It was like that until that day. And it's still going on around. That's kind of how we operate today. I mean, do you truly own your land or your house? Because you don't pay those property taxes, what happens? Yeah, what do you own? I mean, really, think about it. So, and all the effort we put into owning something that we don't really own. Man. So they planted seed. That meant famine was going to end. That seed was going to produce. And so things were going to kind of get back to normal, minus you don't have your stuff anymore. You don't have your stuff. Now later on, we know what's going to happen. You see, this Pharaoh is going to die. And another Pharaoh is going to take over. And you think the people are whispering in his ear? And you think he starts looking like, wait, there was like 2,000, and then 20,000, and then 200,000. Now there's 1 million of them. They got an army, you know. And he turns against them and enslaves them, right? So I wonder what God's going to do. You see, as long as Pharaoh was blessing the Israelites, he was doing good, right? But when Egypt decides, you know what, we're going to put them as servants, as slaves. They're not blessing Abraham's descendants anymore. I think Egypt's going to get the bad end of the deal. I'm just foreshadowing a little bit, you know. Okay. Verse 28 through 31. I've already read that. 7 years later, Jacob is now 147 years old. He calls his son, and he wants Joseph to make an oath to him. And once again, he's serious. How do we know he's serious about this promise he wants Joseph to make? Put your hand under my thigh. Have we seen that before? Did Abraham do that? Yeah, put your hand under my thigh, Eliezer. You know, because if you don't do this, you know, you're basically saying you're forfeiting everything. You know, you'll be in exile. You won't. So Joseph does as his father says. He places his hand under his thigh. And what does he promise? Jacob does not want to be buried in Egypt. Take me back to my father. Take me back. Take me back to Canaan, where they had bought that land, right? Yep. So that's the end of chapter 47. Any questions?
What kind of priest did Pharaoh have?
What kind of priest did he have?
Was it wise men or something like that?
Well, you know, they can be referred to as wise men, sorcerers, magicians. Remember the guys with the wooden snake, the snakes, and then Moses' snake ate theirs. And so they were into witchcraft and pagan false god practices, stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing. But they worshipped, you know, those demigods and those what's it called? The name eludes me. Multiple gods, right? What's that? Polytheism.
Did they worship cats too?
They worship all kinds of things. They were, especially when it comes to the plagues, frogs and stuff. A lot of their gods were represented by what the plagues were. I don't know if you knew that, but fly, frog, like Beelzebub. I mean, there's a lot of demonology behind their false gods as well. But that's another subject. But yeah, they would do that, and they would, you know, Pharaoh would call them to interpret dreams, which we found out some they couldn't interpret. They would read signs and start just whatever they could fool Pharaoh with, basically, you know. All right, chapter 48. Let's read verses 1 and 2. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, Behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. Don't forget, Jacob is Israel. They keep switching back and forth. So he calls for Joseph, and we'll find he called for more than that, but he called for Joseph. Joseph brings his 2 sons, right? They were half Egyptian, but they were still Joseph's because he was in captivity. He was, and he's like, all right. So he comes to Jacob's house in Goshen. And when Jacob, the father, is told, hey, your son's coming, he didn't just lay in bed. This shows that, when he sat up and strengthened himself, something important was about to happen, okay? And Joseph probably understood this is when the fathers pass on their blessings. right? So he's like, hey, sons, come with me. Come with me. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 21. Now, what is chapter 11 of Hebrews? What is it referred to as? The hall of the faithful, right? It talks about a lot of faithful people and their faith, right? In Hebrews 11, verse 21, it reads, by faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph and worshiped, leaning upon the top of his staff. This lets you know Jacob, the father here, was used as an example of a faithful man in the fact that he blessed Joseph's two sons. Right? That was a faithful act. Okay? And we'll get more into that. This was Jacob's reaching out for the continuation of God's promises, even when he was facing death. He's like, I know God's going to keep his end of the bargain. And so he was showing his faith as he passed on those blessings. It was an act of faith. All right, that's what he's going to do. Verse 3 of chapter 48. And Jacob said unto Joseph, God Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, behold, I will make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. And now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. What's going on here? He's adopting them as his own, right? That doesn't mean he's taking them from Joseph. It just means he's going to recognize them as his direct children. That's right. And thy issue, which thou begettest after them, shall be thine, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. And as for me, when I came to Paddan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet there was but a little way to come unto Ephrath. And I buried her there in the way of Ephrath, the same is Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's sons, and said, who are these? And Joseph said unto his father, they are my sons, whom God hath given me in this place. And he said, bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now that's a pretty big deal there. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath showed me also thy seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand, towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. Are y'all understanding what's happening here? All right. Which hand is the most important hand for the blessing? Right hand, right? Who's the oldest son? Who's going towards the right hand of Jacob? Manasseh. So, just so you can picture this, if Jacob is sitting on the bed here, right? His right hand is on this side, right? So Joseph, as he's presenting his sons, put Manasseh on his left hand to make sure he went to the right hand of his father Jacob, right? It just, that makes sense. And Ephraim, the younger, he put in his right hand to make sure his father put his left hand on the younger one. So that's what's going on here. I'll read it again, but really pay attention. It says, and Joseph took them both, Ephraim, the youngest, in his right hand, towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly. For Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, God, before whom my father Abraham and Isaac did walk, the God which fed me all my life long until this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said unto Joseph, Behold, I die, but God shall be with you, and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. So, Jacob starts off by relaying the story of how God met him in Luz, which he renamed Bethel, right? And God made him those promises. And so he's praising God here, but he's also retelling the story to his son Joseph. He promised him the blessing of an innumerable people in the land as an everlasting possession, right? This promise from God is what had provided the hope throughout Jacob's lifetime. He considered God's promise as a sure thing. It's going to happen. So just like his thought, I have faith. God said it, God will do it, period. There was no questioning it. That's just the way it was going to be. And so he was sure in his faith. Now, why didn't he bless Joseph and just say, here? Why did he take his two sons and bless them as his own? No. Look at that last verse. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren. He gave him a double portion through his sons. So instead of just blessing Joseph, he blessed two of Joseph's. And that was basically giving Joseph two portions of an inheritance. That's the indication here. So he adopted the sons so that he could, it's not that he's like, hey, I love these grandkids. Did he even know them? I mean, he knew who they were, but he's like, who are these, And, these are my two sons. So he was blessing his son Joseph, but he did it with a double portion by blessing his sons and adopting them as his own. Not only their own, but firstborn. Did you see where it said they'll be like Reuben and Simeon? They're going to be considered my firstborn because they are from Rachel. Remember, he remembered Rachel in there? He's thinking about Rachel. He's thinking about Joseph and Benjamin. But Joseph, that was his prize son. That was his prize son.
We explained the Amorite with my sword and my bow.
Yes. I'll get to that. Don't let me forget, though, because I don't have it written down, but I'll get to that. Jacob passes on the birthright to Joseph by elevating Joseph's two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. They would be considered now firstborn sons, replacing the positions previously held by Reuben and Simeon, and that's why Joseph was considered receiving a double portion. Now, it appears that Jacob, the father, sitting on the bed, he's sick, he can't see good. Does that remind you of somebody else? Maybe his father? Yeah. So he can't really see well. And he's like, hey, I'm seeing something. Who are these two? Or Ephraim and Manasseh. These are my two sons. Well, bring them to me. So bring them to me. He just told him, hey, I'm going to bless your two sons, right? Here they are. Bring them to me. And so he embraced them, he kissed them, and he loved on them, right? And then he's like, hey, I'm going to bless them. And so Joseph's like, sons, this is an important deal. Manasseh, come here. Get on my left hand. Ephraim, get on my right hand. And he guides them up to his father, right? And then he bows down. And old Jacob goes, he does the crisscross of arms. That's what he does. He goes, let me feel, okay, yeah, here it goes. This is the right way. And he starts blessing them. And Joseph, he looks up and he's like, whoa. Dad, you got confused here. You got your hands wrong. This is Manasseh. And he tried to move his hands to the right heads. And Jacob's like, I'm not having it. I know what I'm doing. This is by divine. This is not according to man's rules. It's according to the way God wants things. So my hands where they are is where they're going to stay. Period. And Joseph backed away. Right? Yeah, Joseph was like, Dad, you can't see. You got the wrong one. But what happened to Jacob? He was the younger, right? And he got the blessing. And then he recounted the time. He goes, you know what? God's blessed me so much. Yeah, he was like, there was no deception here. It was just straightforward, right? But, he says, not only did God bless me with seeing the son I thought I had lost, but he's let me live long enough to see your sons. I mean, what a blessing that was. Jacob considered that, a true blessing. Jacob addresses God after he places his hands on the two boys, and he had 3 different titles, really, that he used. He refers to God as God of his fathers Abraham and Isaac. Then he recognized him as the one who had been his shepherd. And then also the angel who delivered him from harm. So basically, God's watched out over me my entire life. He explains that Ephraim would be the greater. They're both going to be great nations, but Ephraim will be greater than his brother. That's what his blessing was. Once again, the younger is blessed over the older. Now, how many generations does this make that has happened? This is the 4th. This is the 4th, right? So, yeah. Jacob then tells Joseph that God would once again bring his people out of Egypt and return them to the promised land. He explains that he had just given Joseph a double portion. Reminds me of that song, Give Me, Lord, a Double Portion. So that's where we are. All right, let's go about the Amorites. So I did read something about that in my studies. And supposedly, let's read verse 22. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. So that portion, if you look at it, it's a mountain slope. So it's a piece of land. He's saying, I took this land from the Amorite, right? So it's not mentioned in Genesis. But supposedly, there was a time when Jacob went and fought against this Amorite and took his land by sword and bow. He killed him. So that's all I know. But that's all I can't add any more to it. I didn't really dig into it. I just saw one explanation saying, hey, this is the story that he did this, but I didn't dig any further than that. It was a busy time. So, what other questions do you have? I was going to go ahead and finish, but then I'm like, this is going to take at least 45 to 50 minutes, and it'll be close to 8 o'clock, and I don't want to rush it and cram it in, and I had planned to take 2 weeks anyway to finish it up. So next week we will do chapter 49 and 50, and that will conclude the study of Genesis. Now your homework, I want you to list the sons and what sign or animal represents that tribe. So what is Judah? What's the symbol? The lion. Yeah. So you know these things. You got to go through and you got to know it for next week. There may or may not be a quiz. So gives you something to study. All you got to do is take a red pen, underline the son's name, find the animal, and do it. Now, if Jacob uses an animal that you're not familiar with, you got to look it up. Okay? And let me see here. So y'all know what a foal is, right? There's a serpent. There's a hind. What's a hind? Oh, yeah. So see, you got to figure out what kind of animal it is, because if you come in and say kind, I'll be like, what's that? So something fun to do, right? This is fun. It's not a task. It's a joy. I'm giving you a joy to find out what the animals are that represent. Now don't go on the internet and just, you got to do some research, but you can read the Bible for yourself and determine what the animals are. So please pray for me and Laura and Yana and Sky and Dristan and Gracie. We're all going to move Yana in tomorrow. So please be praying for her in school. Pray for us a safe trip. And pray for Laura to start feeling better. So, any questions, comments, concerns? All right, if everybody would please stand. Brother Ricky, will you close us out in prayer?